So we're at the top. We're at the top of the bubble of the baby boomer generation retiring. So there is somebody retiring, turning 65 and retiring every 9 seconds right now, which, that's not all that surprising. I didn't know it was every 9 seconds, however you want to make it play out. But what the statistic that I thought was very interesting was that in 1960, there were 6 people working for every one person that was a retiree. And today, there are 3 workers for every person that is retiring. So it's half. And when we get through this bubble of baby boomers retiring, it will be almost 2 workers for every one retiree. So if any of you out there think, if you're my age, I'm 50, if you think you're going to have Social Security, you got another thing coming, because it's done. It's going to be so done. And they can say whatever they want, but it's that money you paid in. Thanks a lot for that, because you ain't going to see that. You better go buy some Tesla stock before the 20-to-1 split, because you're going to need that money in retirement.
All of the food we eat and much of the clothing we wear comes from plants and animals that are raised on farms. Farms are different in type, in size, and even in name.
Welcome to Barn Talk, water cooler edition. Holy shit, we're back in the barn. Can you believe it? Look around, folks. This is the new image for a while. We're going to hope to stay in the barn and never leave again. We're hoping we can get some insulation up here so that come winter we can stay warm up here. And as we're in our Carhartt jackets right now. It's a little chilly in here, but we just had to make the move, and we did it. Moved everything last week. Up here, it feels good. These are our stomping grounds. It just feels the energy's better in here, looks better. This is Barn Talk, and we are shooting in an actual barn, folks.
We would have started with Garage Talk. It would have been different.
I don't think it would have took off as much as it has. No. Thanks to all you guys for sharing the show and everything. So we don't gossip around here much. We don't talk. Everything we say about our neighbors is true. I promise you. We haven't done a solo episode in a long time. We had 3 really great guests on the last 3 weeks. So today we're going to give you our side of things, and we're just going to talk what's happening in the world and give you guys our perspective on it. So before we get started, though, pay the fee. We don't run ads on the show. We don't run ads to promote the show. It's all word of mouth, and that's the way we like to do it. So share the show if you got any value, if we made you laugh, if you learned something, if you related to us on something, just share the show. We really appreciate it. Also leave a review on Apple and Spotify. That helps us out too. I've seen a lot of people are starting to do that. We read every single review if you do it on Apple, so we appreciate that, because in Spotify, for some reason, they don't let you put worded reviews. They just let you rate it, which is kind of dumb in my opinion, but we appreciate it no matter where you listen. So also, go buy some merch. We got Barn Talk merch available. I don't think anyone's bought some merch in a while, but if you want to buy some Barn Talk merch, head over to our website, which will be in the show notes if you're listening. It'll be in the link in the description on YouTube if you're watching. With that being said, Dad, we're going to do a frickin' market update. We haven't done one of those in a while, so take it away.
We have not done a market update, and it's everything just keeps moving higher. A couple side notes, I guess, while I'm thinking about it. We don't do ads, and we don't really promote this outside of people sharing it, but a couple people that I do want to give a shout out to is Jim Eady from SwineWeb, because they feature a lot of our stuff on their website, and SwineWeb is a good place if you're in the hog business to find out what's going on. So thanks to those guys. And then also Barn Tools. Barn Tools is our sponsor of our YouTube channel, the This'll Do Farm, and great guys, great product, and they're a big reason as to why we can do this side of things. And so check those guys out. Anyway, the market update. I have no Tesla update today. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole. They had earnings yesterday, and it was real good, but we can talk about that some other time. Oil. The last time I did a market update, I think oil was $120, and that was the knee-jerk reaction of when the whole Ukraine war started. And it's kind of settled down. I think it's about 103 is the last time I checked. So that's not, by crazy standards, It's a lot worse than 70, but it's a lot better than 130 or 40 or whatever. Corn, I don't know what it's doing today. I think grains might be down a little bit, but last night when I looked, you could get an $8 local corn bid, which is super if you got any corn left in the bin, and I do have some. And the only reason I do is because my CircuFlow is plugged up and I can't get it to transfer.
Always got shit breaking.
But hey, that's a blessing because I'm gonna get it fixed this week and we're gonna unload that bin. So yeah, $8 corn locally. I honestly can't remember what it is on the board, but soybeans you can get a $17 bid local and $7.40 at this side of the river, $7.60 on the Illinois side. Wheat's $10. Hogs, $112. Hogs, I don't think hogs are high enough. The world over, there's going to be a huge shortfall in red meat, I think. The Chinese are losing money like it's going out of style, and they've been losing money since last July. And the biggest hog producers over there that are publicly traded, they announce their earnings, and you can't really trust much of the numbers that you get out of there because it's all edited for consumption. But they're losing a lot of money on every pig they sell, and so herds are getting cut over there. And so the world supply of pork is just headed down, and eventually that's got to catch up. And when it does, I think you're going to see summer hog prices go pretty high. Bitcoin, 42,000, a little over 42,000. It just kind of floats around. Having a hard time getting over the hump. I don't know. I think it can't seem to decide what market to follow.
It's finding its way.
It's finding its way.
It's new, so it's hard to predict what's going to happen.
The gold bugs are coming out. A lot of people talking about gold and precious metals because inflation. When inflation rumors are not rumors, it's pretty factual that everything's going up. But whenever you get talks about inflation and the value of the dollar, people start talking about gold and silver. And gold was $19.50 the last time I looked at it, and I don't know. I haven't watched it in a while. I'm assuming it's trended up some, but silver's $25 an ounce. I think, and we're going to get into this, but right now, a lot of commodity prices are reacting to the world political situation, and they're running totally on speculation and not on the hard supply. And you can say that about oil, you can say that about grains. I just think that time is going to be what's going to be really interesting as we get further down this road and we see where the Russian-Ukraine war goes and markets worldwide. When it actually gets down to where we're trading on supply and not on speculation, that's when things may get really out of whack. But everything's up, and except for the power of your dollar that you have, your dollar is getting
worse.
It's getting worse every day.
I remember we were talking about this almost a year ago, talking about inflation, how it's bad. But I mean, geez, it's bad now. It's just getting worse. So you just stock up on food and put your money to work for you, because put it in real assets, because it's just not doing you any good.
Yeah,
in your savings. I mean, we always say have an emergency fund, but try to get that thing down as low as you can. I mean, because you don't want it in cash.
You do not.
You just don't want it in cash.
No, your
it's
cash
not helping you.
Your cash is getting devalued pretty fast. I was watching Michael Saylor yesterday when I was waiting for the Tesla call to come, and he's kind of a savage when he starts talking about, he gets fielded the same question all the time. He owns a company called MicroStrategies, and about a year and a half ago probably is when he started.
I don't know. He probably started
longer than that.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
Right as COVID hit.
Something like that. His company produces a lot of cash. It's an older tech company and software company, and so they generate a lot of income and they don't have a lot of expense. The expense they have is pretty well paid for. So, what do you do with this cash? And he went down a deep rabbit hole on Bitcoin, and he made the decision for that company that all of their profit, they just plow it into Bitcoin. And his reasoning for that is because the currency is getting devalued so fast that if you if you can't make in his world, his reason on this is that if you're not making 25% on your money at the corporate level, you're going backwards because of the cost, the devaluing of the currency and the money printing is basically what, because he believes that the price of stocks is artificial, because the reason they're as high as they are is because all the money that's been printed just keeps pumping into the investments,
the stock market.
and it inflates the stock market. And he has a lot of analogies that, he can show you why it's that way, and you can believe him or don't believe him, but he has plowed a pile of money into Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think he's bought the most out of any single company there is.
I think they're the biggest.
If they don't need it to operate, he throws it in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And hasn't he made more money doing that than his company overall?
So there's a lot of companies that have wanted to come out with a Bitcoin ETF to trade on the stock market, and they haven't been allowed to do it. And MicroStrategy's, their stock price, a lot of people just basically are buying that company. They're trading that company as a Bitcoin ETF because they have so much money in Bitcoin compared to what their core business is that it pretty much trades with Bitcoin. So it's a default Bitcoin ETF. So
yeah, I recommend it to anybody to go check him out.
Yeah, smart guy.
Smart guy. You just hear him out and listen to his philosophies. You don't have to love everything he says, but don't never stop learning, because you can always learn something from somebody. So we're going to get into the topics here. It's called Water Cooler Edition for a reason. We're just going to get on here. We're not going to be, negative Nancy's by any means, but we're just going to talk about the things that are kind of bothering us and what our thoughts are. And some of the stuff, we're not going to just talk about strictly what we're bothered by. We're going to talk just stuff we want to talk about, but most of it's stuff we're kind of fed up with. The first thing on this list is I put out a video on TikTok, on Instagram. We break up all the clips. We break up all the long form content we do. So this podcast gets broken up and posted on TikTok and Instagram, and same with the This'll Do Farm YouTube videos. And This'll Do Farm YouTube video, there was a clip of Dad climbing on top of the bin. We were getting ready for harvest, and he was cleaning out the bird's nest that was
in the grain spreader.
Grain spreader, and there were eggs in this nest. What were they? Robin eggs?
They were starling eggs.
Starling eggs, and Dad was just cleaning it out, and he had the GoPro right on his head, and it was like a POV, and so he grabs. He's like, "Well, wrong spot for you guys." Just tosses the eggs off the grain bin because we had to use the spreader, and you could not believe. I mean, there were so many people that thought it was just so funny, and there were so many people that are snowflakes and thought it was terrible. And I just could not. When I posted that clip, I had no idea how many people were gonna react to it.
Yeah.
And on TikTok, it actually got taken down. They got taken down for community guidelines for violence and graphic content. And I appealed it, because you can appeal when they take down your stuff. And I appealed it, and they still told me that it was too graphic for TikTok. And it was going. People were, I don't know, it had like 75,000 views in an hour. And I was like, holy crap. It's got 1 million views on Instagram. Yeah. You know that?
Yeah.
It has 1 million views on Instagram. And there's just people on there that either are animal lovers or bird lovers that telling Dad that what he did was illegal. And then there's people that are just saying yeet and like.
Well, it's taken on a life of its own, because what got it going on both TikTok and Instagram was, and they might have been, I don't know if it was the same guy, but maybe it was two different people, but somebody commented and they literally quoted the law about migratory birds. And I'll tell you what, I think I may have added to the fire a little bit, because when I crawled up there and I flipped the lid open, the eggs that were in there, I didn't really think about it, because I don't think I'm that familiar with starling eggs, but the eggs were kind of blue. But when I watched it, I realized they weren't robin eggs, because they're not the same. I know what robin eggs look like. But anyway, I'm like, oh, robin eggs. And I said, well, sorry, fellas, you picked the wrong place to make a nest, because it was right down in the spreader. Well, anyway, this guy, the guy that started it, he basically was telling me that I was violating the law because they were migratory birds. And he actually quoted the statute, the entire statute of what it said. And then some guy says, just random, some guy says, yeah, it's fine, but he's a farmer. He can do whatever he wants. And oh shit. I mean, after that, it was like on like Donkey Kong. And that's why it just keeps going on Instagram, is because you have these people that, I mean, they were like seriously offended and just
people are just so soft nowadays.
Oh, like I was a murderer.
Oh, it's just terrible. I could not believe. I just couldn't believe when I posted that. I had no idea that was going to strike a nerve with people.
Yeah.
And I love the comments of, people bitching to you about it, and then people just commenting the snowflake emoji.
Nobody seemed to care that I'm a fat kid with poor balance and poor fine motor skills, standing on top of a grain bin. Nobody was worried about my safety.
No.
They were just worried about me chucking these eggs out of this grain spreader. It's a bunch of cold-hearted bastards.
How common is that every year?
Every year all over America.
Yeah, there's always birds' nests in the grain spreader.
Yeah.
We're just the ones that posted it on the internet saying this is what it... I just couldn't believe, and I just think these platforms are getting softer and softer too. The
fact that they took
regulation
that down
is just insane. I mean, how is that graphic? It's not like you saw the egg splatter. It's not like you saw an ant. They weren't
baby birds.
No, it was literally these small eggs that you just tossed off.
Well, that just means next year I'm going to go up, and if there's eggs in there, I'm going to take them home and I'm going to fry them up in a pan.
Yeah.
And we're going to have them with some bacon.
There were some people that were saying that too. They were saying you should have fried those up.
Yeah, we're going to do it next year.
But it's just unbelievable. These platforms are just getting out of hand sometimes. I think that the power that they have is just a little bit ridiculous, and what they see violent versus, because half the people, I'd say 80% of the people that watched that thought it was funny, and they thought it was like, wow, that's life of the farmer. And then there's that 20% of the people that are just snowflakes.
What's really
sorry for cutting you off, but I bet the reason it got taken down was that 20%, they're the loudest, and so they had to report. Every one of them probably reported that video, and TikTok was like, yep, we got to take it down.
Yep. The crazy part to me was that when I saw that video, I was like, well, there's nothing really. I thought the only thing that anybody would find comical about that was me.
Your commentary.
My commentary of getting up there and how I should put stairs on the bin, and probably the fact that I was winded by the time I got up there because I'm out of shape. And I just thought it was somebody, people were like, you fat bastard, whatever. It really wasn't that interesting. And it took on a whole life of its own, which is just insane. But
that's the power of social media, though, too. I mean, on one side of it's ridiculous that it got taken down on TikTok. These platforms have way too much power, and that's what really bothers me. And soft-ass people nowadays.
Yeah.
Kidding me? You're soft if you think that's violent or graphic or that offends you. You're soft.
Yeah.
You're soft. But the other side of it is it's just like one clip that you think is just not interesting at all can reach 1 million people, which is just insane. So it's social media can be fun, and it can be a good time, and it's good to educate people, but on the same time, we're getting a little out of hand with regulating people, and the snowflakes is just...
What would have happened if I would have taken the eggs and fed them to Duke? Oh, that would have really put those people in a quandary, because 80% of the people that complained were probably all animal lovers, and so they would be so convicted. I don't know if they'd know what to do, because on the one hand, you can't be mad at the poor dog. It'd still be my fault, I guess.
Oh yeah, totally.
It'd still be my fault.
It's not his nature to get up there and get in birds' nests. So there you go.
Anyway,
we're sick of the platforms. We're sick of the platforms. I mean, YouTube's pretty good. I'd say YouTube and definitely podcasts. You can be really open on podcasts, which is nice. If you talk about COVID, you get flagged for talking about COVID, but that's
you just talked about COVID.
Well, that's fine. We can get flagged. Most of our episodes are flagged anyway, so I don't care.
Well, speaking of getting flagged on social media, you think Elon's going to get Twitter bought?
I think he should, because them Nimrods running it are pretty stupid, honestly. You can people are fed up with what they're doing. I think Jack Dorsey kind of he must have saw some writing on the wall. I mean, a little bit. I know the new CEO is kind of the one messing things up, but even then, he was probably like, this is too much for me. And this new CEO isn't doing a very good job. They took a month off. Did you see that? They're
Yeah.
taking a month break because of the stress Elon's causing the company.
Yeah.
What a bunch of pansies.
Yeah.
Talk about snowflake culture. There you go, right there. A whole company's going to take a month off because they're
Too much stress.
They're so stressed out that because Elon's trying to buy their company and you're going to shut down. I mean, that's if you want to keep it out of Elon's hands, shutting down is probably the worst thing you can do.
Well, and the fact, so them doing that just adds fuel to the fire, because when he bought his initial chunk and they were trying to make nice with him and they offered him a board seat, one of the first tweets that he put out after that all was going to happen was that he was in favor of shutting down the headquarters of Twitter and making it into a homeless shelter because nobody does anything there anyway. Nobody works there.
Well,
and so then they turn around and they shut down for a month. And if they can shut down for a month and Twitter keeps rolling, what are all those people doing?
yeah.
I just don't get it. And if it doesn't happen, one thing that has very much come to the surface is the people that are anti-free speech that came out of the woodwork because the blood was shooting out of their eyes at the possibility of Elon buying it. And the other part of it, though, is you brought up a good point.
Yeah. Well, here, I want you kind of explain what's going on, because I don't know if everyone knows really exactly what happened. Like, Elon wanted to buy some Twitter, got, 9% of the company. They offered him a board seat. And then I think he kind of had an awakening, like, if I'm going to sit on the board of this company, we got to do some shit around here because this is not in order, pretty much. And then he said, I want to buy the whole company.
Yeah.
And go private with it and not beholden to what do you call that? When you got
shareholders.
Shareholders, yeah, not beholden to shareholders. Because I think he thinks that's the best way to turn Twitter around.
Right.
And so now all this, there's the government's going to step in and try
No. To back up on all this, 6 months ago, maybe it's only been 4 months ago, maybe, Elon put out a tweet about, the problems with lack of free speech and the problems of censorship. And he did like a poll. Is there room for another social media company or
should
something?
I start my own platform?
Yeah. Should I start my own platform? And it was it was an overwhelming yes, he should from the Elon, all the fanboys out there that love Elon. But then what nobody knew at the time was very shortly after that, Elon started buying shares. He started accumulating a position in Twitter. And when he finally filed, so he finally got to a point, there's a threshold. Once you buy so many shares, you have to file a form with the SEC that shows how big a position you have when you get to the point that you're of whatever size. And he filed that, and that's when it came to light that he was the single biggest shareholder of Twitter stock. And I think it was either 9 or 15%.
I don't know.
9 something.
I don't know.
Anyway, it was big enough that people were afraid that he was doing just what he now says he wants to do. They were afraid that he was coming after and going to try to do a hostile takeover. And he wasn't. And, he filed that. And then there were discussions between he and the chairman of the board and the CEO of Twitter. And they offered him a position on the board, which he agreed to. But then, and he posted this on his Twitter feed, he had conversations through that week and into the weekend with, I want to say, the chairman of the board or the chief financial officer. I guess I don't know for sure which guy he was talking to. But at the end of it, he basically said that he wasn't interested in being on the board and that he felt as though the only way that Twitter could be, the things that needed to happen at Twitter, the only way that was going to happen was for him to take it private and get rid of the board of directors. because I think what happened is he basically gave him his agenda, what he thought needed to, happen. And they were like, there's no way in hell that this is going to happen. And so he was like, well, we're just going to have to agree to disagree. So he announced that he was going to make that bid of $54.20. He likes his 420 pretty well. $54.20 a share, which if you look back, Twitter has been basically flat. It's very close to the price that it went public at. It's just, it hasn't done much. It has lagged behind most other social media platforms. So as far as shareholder value, the price that he offered to buy it at was about a 40% premium over where he started buying at. Now then, it's only about a 25% premium over where it was after it was announced that he bought that, because the shares went way up. But and the board of Twitter,
well, pretty much if they don't let him buy, he's going to sell all the shares and tank the stock anyway.
Right. And so what they've done then is they've done what they call a poison pill, which I'm not sure how this is legal, but it is legal because companies have done it before. What they're doing is pretty much everybody that owns stock in Twitter, minus the block of stock that Elon owns, they're splitting that stock. And so they're diluting the share price. And so now then, rather than having 9%, he would only have 4.5%. Because his shares, the price gets diluted. But the crazy thing, so to back up a little bit, when he made his offer, the board hired an investment bank, an investment house, to basically explore whether or not that bid was fair or not. And I cannot remember the name of the bank. It wasn't Chase. I can't remember who it was. It pisses me off. But anyway, they hired this bank to evaluate the offer. And they came out and said, I mean, within a day, they said the offer is way undervalued. The only problem with that is that bank that they hired, their analyst that follows Twitter was recommending shorting the stock, and they had a $30 price target on Twitter. So on the one hand, they themselves were telling their investors, their clients, that it was an opportunity
to short Twitter,
and that
so they wanted it to dilute this. They wanted Twitter to dilute the stock.
Well, and right? Their recommendation was if you had it to sell it, and their price target was $30. And then on the other hand, when they get hired, they say, "Oh no, that's too low." And Elon was nice enough to put he screenshotted their recommendation off their website and who the analyst was and all that. So it's just another example of the hypocrisy.
Well, corruption. I mean, that was the big thing. It's the corruption.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day,
do you think he'll get it or no?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it just all comes down to how bad he wants to mess around with it. If it becomes too much of a distraction, I don't know if he'll follow through. But at the same time, he can go get the money. I mean,
he's the richest man in the world.
Well, and he's not going to use all his money. He's got banks set up. I think Chase.
Well, that's the other thing people don't really realize about Elon. His money's not cash.
Yeah,
it's all in his company, so he can't really cash out and just put it into Twitter.
Yeah, he's going to use somebody else's money to buy it. And here's the other thing. If he was to buy it and take it private at $54.20 a share, and he had Twitter private for a year or 2 years, and he makes the changes that he wants, and then he turns around and he IPOs that stock, he takes it back to public, I will guarantee you he could probably double his money.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
He would double his money.
I don't care what you say about Elon. Whatever the dude touches, it turns into gold. I mean, he's proven time and time again he makes really successful companies.
Yeah.
And he does a good job. And so I think buying Twitter, he would do what he always does. He'd make it a better company, and it'd be more valuable there, but also it has his name on it.
I think the first thing that he would do is fire a shitload of people, because it's obvious that it's very bloated. There's a hell of a lot of people there that don't do anything. And he would streamline it, cut costs, streamline it, and then have people, streamline the software and the algorithms and all that, and then turn around and take it public. I don't know whether he'll get it or not. The other question you asked is, can you trust Elon?
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast, and they were sharing this kind of perspective, and it made me really think for myself. But can you trust Elon? And I say that, we're big Tesla guys. We like Tesla. We think it's a really valuable company. We think it's going to crush. It's going to continue to crush on the stock market. We like Starlink. We like what Elon stands for. You got to give the guy credit, no matter if you love him or hate him. He's a brilliant mind. He's going to go down as one of the most brilliant minds ever in history, and he's inventing new things, and you can't take that away from him. And he's got a great mind, and you can't take that away from him. The one thing that I think is something that's not being talked about enough is he's playing the I don't know if it's an act or if it's actually who he is. I don't know, and it's hard to say because we don't know yet. But is he playing the act and playing the part of being pro-freedom, free speech for the American people, or is he just a pawn in the elitist game where he's playing that part, but over here he's getting greased, and there's a long-term plan to having Elon have because everyone loves Elon right now. From the outside, if you look into what he's doing, what he tweets about, what he stands for, he's playing the part like, yeah, I'm pro-American, I'm pro-free, free of choice, all that stuff. But you also got to think this administration is paying him massive, massive dividends. The Green New Deal, it's helping him out drastically. And so he's definitely benefiting off this administration. But he likes to play this part that he's really, not for.
Anti-establishment.
Right. And I truly think, I don't know what to think, but it's something to watch because, let's be honest, elitists, they're power hungry, they're money hungry. He's the richest man in the world, but he is different than most elitists. Yeah. He is definitely different, and I don't think Elon is power hungry. I don't think he's money hungry, but what Elon is hungry for is innovation. And I think he's willing to do whatever it takes to make his inventions go to the place it needs to go. And if that means being greased by somebody so he can get what he needs to make SpaceX go to the moon or go to Mars, he'll do that. But I don't think he gives a shit about power or money.
Right.
He just cares about getting his mission done.
Yeah.
And if anyone can help him in that, and he has to give them value in return for whatever he needs, that's something to watch. And I will say this for wrapping this up. If Elon is true in his intentions of what he perceives to be, it's exactly what America needs. If we can have a billionaire actually not be corrupt and bought and paid for, and is for, pro-America, and is a brilliant mind, and is for freedom speech, it's exactly what we need.
I will just add two things. One, on the BlackRock is a major investor in Tesla. BlackRock has a lot of money in Tesla. But the flip side of it is Tesla has no debt. So they paid off the money that they had borrowed. They paid it off early. And they actually paid, I think they paid a little bit of penalty for doing that. And so one could say, on the one hand, if anybody that has a relationship with BlackRock isn't on my list of favorite people, but that's a little bit difficult because BlackRock's gotten to the scale that pretty much any company that's in the S&P 500, if you're in the top 10% of that, even hell, if you're in the top half of that, there's a pretty good chance BlackRock probably has money invested in that company. So that's not a big deal. The thing that I like is that they're to the point now that they're not beholden to pretty much anybody because they don't owe anybody any money. And they're printing so much money that it kind of gives me, I feel pretty good that he is genuine And I don't think you'll ever know 100%.
I mean, so far he's given me a reason not to.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm just weary of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to trust people nowadays, and it's especially hard to trust elitists.
Yep.
And I don't want to say he's an elitist, but he is.
No, he is an elitist.
I mean, he's the wealthiest man in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be a little weary of it. But so far, he's different than any elitist there is out there.
Yeah.
So
time will tell.
It's just something to think about. Go ahead and talk about Prop 12 and what your thoughts are. To me, if anyone doesn't know what Prop 12 is, California is trying to regulate hog sow units and the
square
footage of how much pen space they need, all these sows and piglets and everything. And I'm kind of sick of talking about it, to be honest, because it's just one of these things that I think we need to just tell them to shove it and shut up. Yeah. And rest of the world's not going to confine to what California wants to do. So screw you. You just will have $16 bacon or whatever you want, especially during these times. But you go ahead and go in on it because you wanted to say a few things. And
I'm kind of like you in the fact I'm pretty tired of talking about it. The 50,000-foot view is that statute it got appealed to the United States Supreme Court, and they're going to hear arguments on it. So it is going to get settled one way or another, and I don't know if it'll be overturned or whether it'll be upheld. But I will say this. Something that really pisses me off is within our industry, I don't know why we coddle that mindset. I don't know why we cozy up to people that are pushing that agenda. And by that I mean, the other day I saw a podcast, and I honestly can't remember whose it was, but it was a vet clinic, and they had I'm assuming was the owner of a sow farm, and they were making all the changes that they had to make their sow unit Prop 12 compatible. And they may have been getting pushed that way by the packer that they were sending their meat to. They might be thinking that they...
Well, I was going to say, I mean, there's opportunity there. That's the thing. You know, if you're a capitalist, you see opportunity there, but it's one state out of 50. That's my thing.
Well, my point of it is that I just feel like that as an industry, we're like everybody else in the fact that we're so soft. For years, the people on that side of the argument, we have been trying to accommodate them, and we've been trying to appease them. And you do not get in bed and appease people whose goal is to put you out of business. And these people, this is just another wheel in the machine. It's just another step. It's another way that they found to take a chunk, and their overarching goal is to put animal agriculture out of business. And as an industry, I feel like we should probably just flip them the bird, because here's where we're headed.
Well, especially right now.
We're headed to a time of food insecurity. If the issues that are dominating the world stage continue as it looks like they're going to, we're going to have a shortage of almost every commodity out there. And food prices, outside of having to accommodate a specific way to raise a meat product, outside of that, are going to skyrocket. They already are. They already are up, and they're continue to go up. So all you're doing with this proposition is adding more burden to the people that can least afford what's happening to them regardless.
Yeah, I mean, Californians are going to suffer the worst. I mean, they're already going to suffer with food prices, and then you're going to add this on top of it.
Yeah.
And you're just going to skyrocket the price even more.
I feel like we're to the point where we just need to be united. We need to have a united front, and we need to say, you can do whatever you want to do, and if you do not want our product, we will ship it somewhere else in the world, because don't kid yourself. There is nobody in a country that has food insecurity today. We as Americans do not know what food insecurity is on any large scale. There are countries around the world that know that every day. And when we can ship our product there, we do not have to ship it to California. And here's the thing. The amount of pork, the amount of beef, the amount of poultry, the amount of grains throughout the entire world, we're headed to a time where they may not be at record lows, but they're going to be constrained more than they ever have been since probably World War II. So in my mind, it would be a really good time for us to figure out what our priorities are as people and as a nation. And if food security is important to you, then you need to set aside your political agenda and
think about the people.
Think about what's best for the people. And Prop 12 is not. And in our industry, and I've said this before, the equipment industry within the swine industry, those guys, they're falling all over themselves because they will profit. If this goes through, the equipment companies will profit because they are going to have guaranteed business of people remodeling. So they're not your friends because on the one hand, they want to be every pork producer's friend, but on the other side, they want to sell all this stuff. So I don't feel like they're being genuine in what they're doing, and that might be an unpopular view, but it all gets back to this idea, and this is kind of an overarching theme in this podcast, is the older I get, the fewer people I trust. And I just don't trust a lot of people to do what is necessarily best
for the people.
I trust them to do what's best for their pocketbook 90% of the time. And I feel like our industry needs to do we really need to do some soul searching to decide, how far are we going to go down this road? And I think it's time to just say, you know what, we're not going to go down this road. Science is on our side. There's a reason why we produce pork in the most efficient manner at the least cost per pound of anywhere in the world. And that is very important, and it's going to become more important because we're going to be the ones to carry the rest of the world, and our production has to get better, not worse, and it's not going to get better going backwards.
It's just going to make it worse. It's going to be
Where's
harder
my
on labor. Yeah,
bomb
button.
Bomb
it's going to be harder for labor to find labor. It's going to be harder on the amount of pigs that you get out of a litter because more pigs are going to get crushed because the sows will just lay down if it's open pen. And it's just going to not be a good deal. But I want to just say, Gary Vee always said this, people bitch about stuff when it's really easy times. They get a certain type of milk in their coffee when they didn't want it, and they'll go up and they'll bitch about it. But when times get hard, people really let those small things go, and they don't complain about them. And we are heading to a time where food prices are going to be outrageous, and you're not going to care how you get your pork or how you get your beef or how you get your chicken. You're just glad that you're getting it. And if you can get it cheaper than anywhere else in the world, you're not going to complain about that.
So you're saying that next fall nobody may complain when we put the video out of me throwing the bird's nest out of the grain spreader?
No, because people are too big as snowflakes. But I just think people will get more. There'll be less to complain. I think because of the times we're heading.
Hard times make strong men.
Hard times make hard men, and soft times make soft men, and then soft men make hard times. We're heading to soft men make hard times.
We're heading to hard times because of all the soft men that have populated our country for the last however many years.
And one thing I wanted to say too is I always hear people say, I don't know why this food system in America got this way, how it's so, there's so many conglomerates and it's not, there's not a bunch of like smaller USDA processing plants, and it's just this massive thing, and it's not like, like they get mad because everyone's not doing the sustainable practices, quote unquote, you'd say, letting pigs go outside, which we can argue if that's sustainable or not, but they don't ever seem to talk about we had to do that because we had to we had to be more productive as in our food system, because if we didn't do that,
the only reason
we wouldn't be able to feed as many people. We have 1% of the people feeding the 99% of people in this world. And there's a reason for that.
The reason the United States of America has been able to be as successful as they have is because so few people have had to spend their time
worrying about
where their food's coming from.
Yeah.
And that's it.
They always talk about that we're always focused about the bottom line dollar. Everything's about the money. But you really skip over the fact that we had to do this to thrive as a nation. And we had to get more productive because we had to feed the growing population. And if we were to never evolve and we would have never gotten more productive, it's exactly what you said. We would have had more and more people focusing on where they're going to get their food rather than focusing on what they can do in their day-to-day lives. Mm-hmm. And I just can't believe people don't even think about that. Yep. Like, obviously this system is effective.
People get very comfortable and they believe that everything is as it has been, will forever be how it will be and how it will be in the future. I probably didn't say that quite as smoothly as I could, but that is a nice tie-in to the people in Ukraine. They're realizing today, and they've realized, obviously, for this has been going on for 6 weeks now. Is it 6 weeks? I don't know if it's been quite that long or not, but their entire world's changed, their entire country's changed. All their hopes and dreams that they thought were going to come to be, that's all changed. Everything that was a priority to those people, all those priorities have changed. And I don't think that we as Americans we just don't know what that's like. We know what that's like on an individual basis. If you've had someone, if you've lost somebody tragically, quickly, if you've been in an accident, if you've had a house burned down, there's plenty of individual people that have had traumatic events that have altered their lives and changed their priorities. But we don't know as a nation what it's like to have basically your country collapse around you. And that's what's going on over there. And the ripple effects of what's going on in Ukraine, that's going to play out in ways that I don't think we fully understand. And one of the things that we've talked about throughout this is inflation and commodity prices, and you're seeing that in corn and wheat and soybeans and everything. But what's scary to me about that is, so far we are trading in the commodity world. We're trading the rumor. In other words, we're trading the anticipation. We're trading what could happen a year from now.
We're not trading what's happening.
A year from now, you could be looking at a situation where prices are much worse than they are today because now it is a reality. Right. So, in Ukraine, there are farmers there in the western part of that country that land hasn't been affected as much, and they may or may not have their inputs and their fertilizer available, but I know there's a lot of them, obviously, that they're planting a crop right now. In fact, I don't know how far along in their spring planting they would be, but they're planting a crop. Now, how big that crop will be, nobody really knows. Will they be able to harvest it? Nobody really knows.
Are they going to have fuel?
Yeah. Will they be able to dry that crop? Will they be able to deliver it? Will they have any place to deliver it to? And will it be able to get exported? I'll guarantee it's not going to get exported because it would go to Odessa. And Odessa, there'll be no traffic through the Black Sea. No freighters it's not going to happen.
Why?
Well, because you can't get into the Black Sea and you've got the Russian Navy in there and they're going to blockade if they're still functioning. Now, side note, Russia has 12 ships in their Black Sea fleet. The two most advanced ships that they had have both been sunk. So the flagship of the Black Fleet was the Moscow. That was a cruiser or a destroyer, and it got sunk last week. And the two that got sunk had the best defensive capability. And so there's some question as to whether or not the Russians can sustain control of the Black Sea. Time will tell, but it doesn't really matter. They've bombed enough in Odessa, and most companies that run, freighters, they're not going to send anybody into the Black Sea unless you've completely taken care of the Russian fleet to where they can't do anything, which that's pretty unlikely unless the war escalates and NATO gets involved. But whether that grain, whether what they produce can be transported out of the country, over land, some, but I don't know at what scale you can do it.
But it all depends if they got fuel. I mean, fuel's a huge part of everything that you do in agriculture, for farming, grain anyway. Yeah. I mean, you got to have fuel. You got to use it to dry it. You got to use it for transportation. You got to use it to get the crop in, out, all of that. So, I mean, that's a huge factor for them is fuel.
And so, something that's really interesting that's come to light, there's a guy, his name's Peter Zion, and he's written 3 books. He's got a 4th book coming out. If you look him up on Twitter, YouTube, about anywhere, he'll come up. Very interested cat. He's from Iowa, grew up in Iowa, and he specializes in geography, political science, and demographics. And he has some really unique takes on not only why we're where we are in Europe, but how we got there and where we're going. And I would recommend listening to him if you get the chance. Read his books. Just a really unique point of view that you can do your own research, and it'll broaden your view as far as why people do what they do. But anyway, I think one thing that is very apparent, and the Germans know this firsthand, but we saw this evolution where Europe cozied up to Russia, and the environmentalists in Europe wanted all the nuclear power plants shut down. France and Germany were among the leaders in the world with nuclear power, and the snowflakes and the environmentalists and the hey, look at me crowd, they pushed that agenda hard, and both Germany and France replaced a lot of their nuclear capability with fuel and energy from Russia, and then went solar and wind, and now it's bit them in the ass completely because
they're dependent on Russia.
Yeah,
for fuel. And
I will give Germany credit. A lot of people didn't think that they had the balls to not fold to Russia, but they didn't, and that's good. That's surprising. But it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of Europe copes with the lack of energy. And I don't know if the United States, this gets into the ineptness of the Biden administration. And, if I'd like to think that if there was a Republican in office that was doing as poor a job as what Joe Biden is, that I would be equally upset with their job performance as I am with Joe's.
I don't care who you are. I'd be.
The United States should be taking a lead role in producing as much oil. We should be producing as much oil as we possibly could. Our goal should be to get back and eclipse the production that was going on during the Trump administration, and that's not happening. They did open up more federal land for permits, but they raised the cost of the permits. They limited the amount of time and the size of contract they would give. I mean, they basically just did the bare minimum they could do and say that they did something is what they did. And
pretty much a headline.
Yeah, that's all it was. It wasn't, there's no meat to it. But it's going to be on our shoulders. I mean, more than it has been since World War II. If we want Europe to stay independent and be able to keep freedom on that continent, the United States is going to have to step up and help supply them with energy, supply them with food,
or stop Russia.
Yeah,
I mean those are your two options right there.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of interesting developments there. Finland and Sweden both have votes coming up in the next couple weeks as to whether they'll join NATO. And they both have traditionally been independent. And there's a long history with both of them with Russia. Finland more so than Sweden, but Finland, the reason they've stayed independent is basically they fought the Russians to a stalemate in World War II, and then the Soviet Union kind of made a deal with them that if they didn't pledge allegiance to anybody else, that they just kind of leave them alone. But now, with everything that's happened, Finland has made the decision with Sweden, and I think they both will join. They'll end up joining NATO. But there's just so much uncertainty over there, and
it's got a lot of ripple effects. It can affect a lot of people, what's happening over there. It can affect us in the markets, affect what we're doing. It's going to affect Europe.
Yeah.
It's going to obviously affect Ukraine. It's already affecting Ukraine.
Yeah.
And America has something, they can do something about it. It's just a matter if they do something about it.
Yeah. It's time for strong leadership, and there's some question as to whether or not we have that, whether anybody we have in the administration right now is capable.
Yeah, we think it's bad now with the markets and everything, but just what's going on in the world stage, it's just things could get way worse. Really, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but it's truth. So prepare yourself, prepare your families, and we think food price is really bad now. It could get worse. So buy double. When you go buy something, buy double. I'm not saying prepare for the end, but geez, get some. Be smart with your stuff. If you can double up on things and buy some ammo, maybe, I don't know.
So Torque's
if there's any available.
Yeah, Torque's inflation barometer is Bush's baked beans. So
I thought you were gonna say Spam.
No, Spam stays pretty consistent. It's pretty consistent, although I'm sure it is going up. But I just know this because our traditional summer meal is the double starch meal, where typically it's like pasta salad, baked beans, and fill in the blank.
Meat.
Brat, burgers, hot dogs, whatever it is, baked beans is like a staple. And so, a year ago, you could buy Bush's baked beans for $1.48 a can, and then they were $1.99 a can. And then they were $2.25 a can. And I think the last time I was with Trish at the store, I think you could get Bush's baked beans for $2.69 a can. So that tells you it's I don't know what the rate of inflation on that is, but it's close to 100% there. Yeah. And we have next year. Will I have $3.50 Bush's baked beans? I don't know, but obviously there's a lot of pressure. And, you see it at the meat counter. You've seen it with chicken, hard. And
the meat's outrageous.
But so let's put on our farmer hats. What we talked about when we were hashing this out is, I feel pretty good about the crop that I'm getting ready to put in the ground. And if this weather stays, if we can get through this rainy bit, we're finally warmed up, I think we'll be planting corn next week sometime. Last year, we planted corn on the 18th, and we didn't make that, but I think next week we'll get our corn and beans planted. But, we got the seed bought, and seed really didn't go up that much, and we're very lucky. We're smart. Don't let anybody tell you we're not smart, because we built these hog buildings, and we got all this manure out of these hog buildings, which makes you look pretty smart now, because the fertilizer value out of that manure is pretty good this year. So we got most of our fertilizer covered, with the exception of a little bit of starter that we'll probably side dress with. But what I'm worried about is, let's think about trying to put in a crop for 2023, because when we get to fall this year, diesel fuel to take that crop out, LP to dry that crop, seed corn for next year, nitrogen for next year, and then for the guys that rent a lot of ground, if you've got people that own ground that are retired, their cost of living went up, and they're looking at you selling the highest price crop that you've probably ever raised. Do you think rent's going to stay the same?
Nope.
You can go and cry your eyes out. Those guys are going to be like, well,
I got to live, bro.
There's 4 other people that'll pay more than you are, so you can either pay it or not. So everything is going to go up, and it's going to get tight. I told Sawyer, I said, you know, I think next year you have the chance to grow the most profitable crop that you've ever grown. Revenue-wise.
Yeah.
But it may be the least profitable crop or one of the least profitable if all your expenses explode the way they are. So just a lot of uncertainty.
It's like you're not going to really gain in much. It's going to probably turn out to be in like an average year because your cost of everything's skyrocketed and your revenue that you made on the crop's going to be skyrocketed. So it's just going to play out. You might make a little more. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Depending on how big of a deficit, you know, how much lack of supply there is, but I don't know. Yeah, we kind of went on a tangent there, but
we covered all kinds of stuff.
We covered all kinds of stuff. I think one thing that's really bothering me, and I don't care, Dad, you kind of mentioned this, if there was a Republican in office doing as bad as Joe Biden's administration, would you be as pissed? I certainly would. I don't care who you are. You cannot sit here and tell me that this administration has done a good job. You cannot sit up here and tell me that Joe Biden looks like a great leader. We're going to talk about here this Easter, if you saw the video of him aimlessly wandering around and the Easter Bunny had to come assist him to get him to the place he was going to go. I mean, I feel like I don't have any hatred towards Joe Biden. I truly think he is losing his marbles. I mean, he really doesn't seem like he's all there. And it's sad to see it, but it's also like this is supposed to be the world. This is supposed to be our leader, and it's embarrassing. It's fucking embarrassing, and I don't care who you are. You got to somewhat agree with that statement. You do.
It's elder abuse is what it is. The people that are running him, somebody should be. And here's the problem. I honestly think that if the people that are in charge at the White House, if they thought that Kamala Harris was a better representative, something would have happened to Joe that he was not able to continue, and she would have been. I think somebody would have invoked the 25th Amendment.
I don't know. I don't think people. If they wanted her to be in, I think she'd be in already.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
she is when they brought her in.
But I don't know. They might still be on that game plan.
I don't know. She is a freaking train wreck.
Yeah, but
I guarantee you they won't send her back to Europe.
I don't know. I mean, he's missed on about everything, about every mark you can miss. I mean, the energy independence lost that. Afghanistan couldn't have handled that any worse.
Yep.
Ukraine deal, we're not doing nearly enough.
Well, we could have done a lot. We could have done a lot more before. Now, right. I mean, the argument about what we do or don't do now, our hands are a little bit tied, but we definitely could have done much more on the front side before that deal started. And we didn't do it.
The whole inflation thing, I mean, you could say, well, that's not really on Biden, but I mean.
It is on Biden.
It is.
The whole idea that you're going to blame Putin on that.
Yeah.
That is bullshit.
That's the other thing that just pisses you off is they really think that Americans are that stupid that, what are the exact word that they say? Putin price hike.
Yep.
They call it the Putin price hike. You really think we're that stupid? Yeah. Like, it genuinely pisses me off thinking that you think Americans are that stupid to say that you're going to blame it on Putin of all the prices that are going on right now.
That ship was
unreal.
That ship left the dock long before the Ukraine war started.
And like I said, I don't care if it was any Republican in office doing the same thing that he's doing. It's ridiculous. It's sad to see. It's embarrassing. And I'm really praying that people got their heads screwed on right come 2024. And I hope it's a fucking blowout. I hope Robert DeSantis runs and he lays the hammer down and people can get behind him and it's like a 70-30. You know, you don't want to talk about election fraud or anything like that, but the fact that there's even a question about it, you got to make it such a substantial win that you can't even have a thought that there was election fraud. So vote the living shit out of it and see what happens.
Vote early and vote often.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just the way that the left is going. It's so extreme. It's unreal. And this administration is doing nothing but proving how lost they are and how not pro-America they are. They're not pro-freedom. They're not.
Speaking of pro-freedom, so you had on here right in that COVID's gone because the airlines after the judge declared the mask mandate for public transit to be unconstitutional, all the airlines lifted the mask mandate. However, your government, in their infinite wisdom, announced this morning that the CDC told them how important it was to continue masks on public transportation. So, because they're so pro-freedom, they're going to appeal that decision
from all these airlines, and it's not just like one airline. It's
no, it's everything.
Yeah.
They're appealing it, and if they win their appeal, you'll be back to having a mask on all public transportation.
So there's a perfect example of the federal government stepping in and telling us people what we can and can't do, and telling what these corporations that are, I don't know, they're not all, are they public?
Yeah, they're all publicly traded.
Yeah. I mean, so you kind of
Southwest, American, United. Now I don't know how much loan money they've gotten from the government from COVID, but so my question about that is, for all of you out there, you can comment on this as you please, but my question about that decision there is, what would push the United States government to spend your tax dollars to appeal that decision when we're this far through the COVID outbreak to where the rate of infection is very low? And I might add that, you've seen the Chinese shut down Shanghai and do lockdowns, and they don't really talk about this, but the reason they do that is because the Chinese don't use the same vaccine that we do in the West. They have their own vaccine. And under the original coronavirus, when it left the Wuhan lab, oh, did I say that?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
When it miraculously just showed up in the Wuhan area, it was about 50% effective on that strain. As the virus has mutated, their vaccine that they are vaccinating their population with has become dramatically poor at giving any kind of
resistance.
Yeah. And by most estimates today, the latest, the Omicron version and the one that's out after that, it's at best maybe 20% effective. So their only choice when they get any sort of outbreak is to lock those cities down. That's why you're seeing that, because they get no benefit from the vaccine. Okay, well, back here, we get very good benefit from the vaccine if you believe in the vaccine, which that's fine. I don't care one way or another. But why do you think that they're going to appeal that? And if you think that that's for public safety, then that's fine. But I don't really believe that. I don't think the reason they're appealing that is because they're really worried about public safety. I think it all comes down to, within this administration and within the political system we have today, it is just another example that they will spend your money to appeal it, and they will go through the trouble to appeal it in the hopes that they can make it enforceable again. And it's all about control. It's all about you submitting to the government and you admitting that the government knows what's best for you. It doesn't have, I don't believe that it has anything to do with the numbers and, follow the science. Well, I don't think that they're following the science at all. I think it's about control, and I think that's why they're doing it. I think it's just another example.
It breeds you to think that way.
Yeah.
You start to think, oh, well, government's got my best interest in mind. They got my best interest in mind. And you just let them keep taking and chipping away. You just slowly start to, abide by whatever they say. And
I'm pretty sure that any bureaucrats that saw the videos where pilots announced that they didn't require masks and the people are cheering, they probably just watched that with just very high level of disdain, because they don't like that, because they don't like independent thought, and they don't like people that are not dependent upon them. So I think that has as much to do with it as anything.
One other thing I wanted to throw in here about Biden is he, hired, or he elected, or what do you call it?
The Supreme Court. Yeah. She appointed
the Supreme Court
Justice.
I can't remember what her name is, but she's the first African-American woman to be on the Supreme Court.
Because let's face it, Clarence Thomas, he doesn't count because he was a Republican.
Yeah, right.
So
exactly. But anyway, before he hired her, he said that he was going to hire a black woman to be on the Supreme Court. And I don't know. I think it's just sad to not, he's solely going to hire that position because of her skin color. And it would be really hard for me if I was in her shoes to not feel like I'm being used. You're not hiring me because of my performance. You're hiring me because of what I look like.
Yeah.
And you're using me as a pawn in your political scheme. And the fact that you talk about it over and over and over and over, you don't talk about my performance. You talk about my skin color more than my performance.
And gender.
It just makes it's sad. And I can't imagine, she probably is happy she got the position, but you can't tell me she's not sitting there a little bit going, man, did I really get this position because of who I am, or did I get a position because who I am as a judge and my performance?
Yeah.
You got to wonder. And I wish that they didn't make decisions because of race. I wish they would I think our country would be better off if we weren't thinking about those things and we didn't care about your color, care about where you came from, care about your religion, whatever you want to do, whoever you want to sleep with, whatever your color is, fine. What's your performance? And I'll hire you depending. I wouldn't care if it was an Indian woman or an Asian man or a white guy or a black guy. I don't care who you are. What's your performance as a judge? That's what I care about. That's what the American people care about. And when you just...
That's what we should all care about.
That's what we should all care about. And I think a lot of people are in that we didn't care who you are, but as long as you're a good judge.
Yeah.
If you're going to do right by the American people.
Yeah.
And it just seems like they didn't... It didn't seem that was the way that they went about that situation. And that's also just kind of sad for her, I feel like, and for us American people, because
we may or may not have gotten the best person,
right,
most qualified person.
Right, we might not have got the most qualified person for the job.
We kind of jumped around a little bit. This was on the back page, but it kind of ties into what we were talking about with a lot of problems in our supply chain and with inflation and all that. I was talking to a guy the other day, an investment professional, and we were talking about the labor issues. And Walmart announced, and I think this is true. I didn't look this story up. I just saw the headline. They're paying like over $100,000 to a qualified person that is a truck driver. I don't know whether that's. I'm assuming that's somebody that is is qualified and has already been a trucker, and that they don't have to train. Somebody that can just come in and get in a truck and go. They're paying them over $100,000 because they're so short. They can't get enough trucks. They can't get enough people to drive them, all that. And the labor shortage is bad, and it's getting worse. And this guy said that right now the largest, so we're at the top of the bubble of the baby boomer generation retiring. So there is somebody retiring, turning 65 and retiring every 9 seconds right now. And that's not all that surprising. I didn't know it was every 9 seconds, however you want to make it play out. But what the statistic that I thought was very interesting was that in 1960, there were 6 people working for every one person that was a retiree. And today, there are 3 workers for every person that is retiring. So it's half. And when we get through this bubble of baby boomers retiring, it will be almost 2 workers for every one retiree. So if any of you out there think that if you're my age, I'm 50, if you think you're going to have Social Security, you got another thing coming, because it's done. It's going to be so done. And they can say whatever they want, but it's that money you paid in. Thanks a lot for that, because you ain't going to see that. You better go buy some Tesla stock before the 20-to-1 split, because you're going to need that money in retirement.
Where do you think most of those jobs are? Where do you think
Skilled.
That's across the board, or do you think that's blue collar labor jobs?
All the above.
All the above.
The worst part about it is it's the most skilled workforce we've ever had. And if you look at any,
who's the most skilled?
The ones that are retired.
Yeah.
Because those guys have got years. So a lot of those guys, they are the generation that when they started with a job, they stuck with it. They're not like your generation or Clay's generation or even my generation. We all moved around more, and if we didn't like the way it went, we were like, screw you, we're out of here. That generation, they wanted stability. They got a job. got a family, got a house, stayed in that house, paid that house off, raised those kids, and retired with that company. If they could, if, that company didn't go broke or whatever. So the jobs that they had, they were the best at those jobs of anybody they've ever had. And the other side of it is a lot of the jobs that they're retiring from are trades, which are already shorthanded. I mean, it's just like when we built your hog building, we did those videos on the concrete guy that poured that pit. That's all he's ever done his whole life, and he's damn good at it. He's retired. Mm-hmm. He sold his crew. He doesn't do it anymore. The Tracy's dad that dug the hole, I mean, I think he's still running a dozer, and he'll run a dozer till the day he dies. But the knowledge that he has, you don't just pass that down. I mean, you don't learn that over. Mm-hmm. There's just a huge amount of those people that are very skilled that they're going to be very hard to replace. Mm-hmm. And so I think, commodity prices are high, but supplies are going to get tight because the transportation, we got problems with transportation, we got problems with production, we got problems, not enough plumbers, not enough electricians, not enough, you name it. I mean, we're going to be short on everything.
Any young people watching or listening, and you're wondering about college and how outrageous the price is, and if you're not going to go to be a doctor, you're not going to go to be a lawyer, you're not going to go to be an engineer, you're not going to go to get... If college is the only place you can learn that skill, okay, then go to college. But if you're wondering what you should do, blue collar trades can be the gas to your fire to go and do whatever you want, because you're going to be able to make a lot of money with trades.
Yep.
You are going to be. I don't know if you want to be a business owner of a trade or you just want to work for a company doing a specific trade. Either way, you're going to make a lot of money. And if you're somebody that just wants to have some freedom, I think there's such a demand there.
Yep.
And it's only going to go up higher the more that this labor shortage continues. And let's face it, Gen Z, Gen X, people don't know how to do shit when it comes to trades.
That's right.
They don't. And they're going to pay however much they need to pay to get the job done. And if most people lack the common knowledge on those things, you're going to be able to set the price however you want, and then the demand's going to be less and less already.
Yeah.
So that's going to play effect in how much you can price things. So I think there's just a massive opportunity for trades, whether you want to be an entrepreneur and own your own trade, business, or you work for somebody in a trade. I have a buddy that, shout out to Matt Roeder. He owns an epoxy company. He went to college for 2 years, dropped out because there was nothing serving him there. Worked for a epoxy company and learned everything there is to know about epoxy. And I'm going to have him on here sometime in the next year. But he just started his own business and he learned that skill. He learned everything there is to know about the epoxy business. 2 years later, he's going out on his own, starting his own thing, and he's been in business for probably a month now.
He is busy.
He is busy. He's crushing it. He's got people skills. He knows his trade well, and he's just getting his name out there. And people are lining up at the door to get their garage floors done, to get anything done. Yep. So it's just like, it's such an opportunity there. And there's such a lack of people willing to do that hard, gritty work. And there's honor in working with your hands.
Heck yes.
There's honor in working your hands. Seriously. I mean, I think we've been fed a bill of goods that, that's below us. Yeah. That's below you to work with your hands every day. But there's honor in that, and there's something to be said about somebody that's doing that kind of work. So the plumber that I work with, when I call him, I'm just thankful when he answers the phone and he tells me that he can get there, because he's got all the work. He's got all the work that he can do. And, every time that I talk to him, I ask him about labor, and he'll tell you, it's like, if there's anybody out there, if he could find more people to hire, he would hire them. But part of his problem is he's got a guy that, he's training, but he can only train so many people, and he can only grow so fast. And that's a prime example. That trade, so many of the guys that are in it, they're all retiring. They're all getting old, and their knees get bad, and they get arthritis, and they can't be doing that. And so, I mean, it's just a tough deal right now. So if you're a young kid, I mean, if you're
If you have a corporate job or you've got a job and you want to make a change, these trades, they're paying whatever they can pay to get people in there to do it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, even if you just want the money to like pay off your loans, or you need some money so that you want to like let's say you don't want to own the trade business, like you don't want to be the business owner. But I think even as an employee working for a trade company, you can make you can make a lot of money.
You make good money.
You can make damn good money, and it can fund whatever your lifestyle is.
Yeah. We totally have jumped in and out of order, and I had a great bit tied in with trucking and inflation and all that, but this is going to be a little bit off the subject, but I wanted to get it in because a lot of people ask about this when I'm talking to people about crypto specifically. I get questions about this, and I really didn't know the answers because I haven't had one. But when that whole Canadian trucker rally went on, and they went to the Capitol, and then the government froze their bank accounts, and they were getting money. People were sending them money in crypto. They were sending Bitcoin to them, and then they froze the exchanges. And you saw it on the news. People were talking about how,
crypto's not safe.
Yeah, crypto's not safe because they're going to freeze your exchange and all that. Well, the answer to that is what they call a hardware wallet. And what that is when you buy whatever crypto it is, whether it, and there's a pile of them, whether you're a Doge guy or Cardano or Ethereum or Bitcoin or one of the hundreds of other ones, there's all these exchanges. There's Binance, there's Coinbase, Cash App, all different ones. And you can buy it, and then you can store that cryptocurrency on that exchange. The downside of that is, and the saying within the crypto world is, if it's not your keys, it's not your crypto. And what that means is if you don't take that cryptocurrency off the exchange, if you don't transfer it to what they call a hardware wallet or a cold storage wallet, and it's on wherever you're storing it, if it's connected to the internet, somebody can get to it. Somebody can freeze that account.
I mean, it's not likely to happen with the big exchanges because they know the opportunity of having a successful exchange, and we're kind of past the stage in crypto where there's these phony exchanges.
Yeah.
It's more, there's some that are really established, and I don't think they would ever take your money away.
No.
But the government thing with Canada is worrisome, so continue.
So anyway, about a week ago, I decided, you know what? It's high time that I get my crypto off the exchanges. So I got it's a Trezor. The brand name is Trezor. And the two most popular hardware wallets out there, I think, are Nano and Trezor. And I bought a Trezor T. I actually bought two. I bought one, and then I got to thinking about it, and I bought another one so that I can back one up to the next because I'm getting paranoid. I'm going down a rabbit hole. I'm getting more paranoid by the day. It won't be long before I'll be wearing...
You need your tinfoil hat.
Yep, I'll have a tinfoil hat and,
Be
whatever.
In a freaking bunker.
Probably eating I'll buy an 80-pound bag of rice here before long. But anyway, I got it. And I transferred everything that I could transfer. Some of these exchanges have daily and weekly limits, and that's not very nice that they do it. They kind of try to make it a pain in the ass because they don't really want you to take it off the exchange because you're more likely to trade it, if it's on the exchange. But anyway, I got all my Cardano and all my Ethereum I got off, and I've got it on a hardware wallet, and Bitcoin I'm transferring as I can. And the thing that surprised me was super easy. Like, I have transferred crypto between exchanges, and compared to trying to do that, to transferring it to my hardware wallet, night and day. So much simpler.
The other one thing, if you guys go get a wallet, which I'm going to because I don't have one either, but you got to remember your password, because if you lose the password, you're screwed. You'll never be able to get in that wallet again. So write it down, put it in. You mean, obviously you don't want some stranger to get a hold of it. You don't want anybody to get a hold of it that you don't want access to your wallet, but you need to make sure that you have that written down, memorized, put it in your safe, give it to your kids if you trust your kids. Like I told Dad, what if Dad ever got dementia and he didn't know his freaking your password? Give us a copy and we'll put it away somewhere safe so we know, because we're not here to
Sounds like a ploy.
Yeah, we're not here to screw you over. I mean, if you could trust your kids, do that. But I'm just saying, like, it's really important. Do not lose that password.
This is how much faith my two sons have in me. So I was all excited. I get it, and I'm getting it all set up. And so you have a 12-word key phrase. So when they say not your keys, not your crypto, the keys is this set of words. There's 12 words, and you don't only need to know the words, you need to know them in the order, because if you are ever locked out of it or you don't use it for a while, it's going to ask you for like a key phrase. So there's one or a passcode, a number. It'll ask you for a passcode, and I think you can set that up as many digits as you want. I think you can have up to like 16 digits if you want. But anyway, they'll ask you for that, and then it will challenge you. It will ask you what your number 4 seed word is. So if you don't know that, it's not just that you know what those 12 words are, you have to know what they are and what number the word is, because it's going to ask you for, it may not ask you for the whole seed phrase, but it may ask you for 1 or 2 of them, and you got to know what they are in order. So that's why they say, not my keys, not my crypto. And what's the number? Like, there's an incredible amount of Bitcoin that is just lost to the world because back in the day, people started these and then they lost the keys. They can't remember whatever it is. They can't get it. It's gone. But anyway, so I get it, and I'm setting it all up, and I'm all excited. And I take a picture of the wallet, and I send a picture to my boys, and almost in unison, within 5 seconds of each other, they both reply to me. And they're like, you better write that down. Yeah. And then the other one, in multiple places. Yeah. And I'm like, geez, I'm not a moron. And then I got to think, well, they must think I am a moron.
Well, no, we just know that you get giddy and excited, and you might have just been like, and then forget to write it down, and then you're screwed.
I have it down.
Yeah, you got to have it down because that would be terrible.
But it feels good. It feels really good to have that. Now, granted, I don't have all my Bitcoin off the exchange, but it feels really good to have that
security.
Yep, to have it and to know that I've got it.
Yeah, I'm going to get one for sure. So say it one more time. What's it called?
So the one I have is a Trezor. Trezor. And it's a Model T. I think they make a Model 1 and a Model T, and then Nano, they have a couple different ones. And it really doesn't make, I don't think it makes a lot of difference. I think the differences between the models depend on how many, some of these, there's people out there that trade multiple of these, I call them shit coins, all of these crazy cryptos, and some of these models accommodate thousands of different ones, and then some of them only do what people call the majors, Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, Doge, stuff, Litecoin, stuff like that. So, and there's other companies that have them too, but those are the premier. And the one thing I'll say is don't buy one off Amazon. So either one of these, whatever hardware wallet you get, go to the
source. Go
to the website of the company that you're actually dealing with. And when they come, all of them come with a foil seal over where you plug the USB or the micro USB cord into them, because you hook them to your computer, and they're sealed from the factory, and they're printed with like it's like that. It looks like that little deal on your credit card, that foil, whatever that is. And there's either a logo on there or a number on there. And if it doesn't have that, somebody has taken it and they've put malware on it to where if you load it,
they'll take it.
They'll take it. So I mean, you got to be careful. You got to be responsible for your own security. So I mean, that's a little bit scary, but Anyway,
You made sure it had the
mine all checked out, and so
Yeah, buy directly from the source. That's the best thing to do. So I think that's gonna wrap it up, guys. We went kind of far. Where are we at?
we're only an hour and a half. We're doing good.
Oh, well, good. No, well, I mean, do you want to keep going?
Well, the only thing I'm going to say is, I think we'll wrap it up. But thank you to all of you for sticking with us. And this thing has grown a lot, and we've had some really good guests on the last few weeks, and we've got some really good guests lined up. And just share us out. And we got a lot of great stuff planned this summer. So the Amish are coming back. So the Amish that built Sawyer's Hog Building are coming back here in a few weeks, and we're going to re-roof this barn. We're putting a new roof on it, and they're going to insulate underneath the tin so that we can put heating and cooling in it. And I got my electrician lined up, and we're going to wire this thing. And the goal for this year, the biggest project that This Will Do Farm this summer is to make this barn year-round worthy. So when we get to fall, those episodes in the garage, if you haven't seen them, go back and watch them, because those are treasures, because you'll never see that again.
That's right. That is right. We're hoping that we'll never have to go back in that garage again. So I think it's kind of cool, because it's like the progression of the show.
Yeah.
It's a progression of the show, and if you missed out on that opportunity to see it, you'll never see it again.
Yeah.
We're hoping.
And we say every week that the price of admission is sharing the show, and at some point we are gonna get some sponsors. We've been working on some sponsorship, and we've got some stuff that is coming through. But just know this, and nothing against any of the companies, and I'm not going to reference any names, but we get DMs all the time. Every week we get a DM from somebody that's selling something, or an email, or both, that's selling something. And
if we don't like it, if we don't think it's going to bring value to guys, if we don't think it's going to help anyone on the show, if we don't like it, if we're not going to use it, we're not going to partner with those people.
I mean, that's the thing. We're not interested in just peddling, coasters and sunglasses and ball caps and whatever it is, lawn fertilizer. That's not our deal. The people that we're looking to partner with are people that make stuff that we already use, or something we'd be interested in using. So if we bring that to you and say, hey, these guys are sponsoring it, it's somebody that we believe in.
The other thing I want to say is we're never going to let a brand tell us what we can and cannot talk about.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in letting anyone take what we have to say and limit it in any way. So
yeah,
I'm not interested in partnering with anyone that's trying to restrict us. It's just not going to happen.
So it might be a deal where Sawyer does all the talking, because I'll take the money. It just won't say anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not in it for that. I'm in it for the long term. You guys matter to us. What you guys talk about when you comment on the show and let us know what you want to hear, your thoughts, what you guys matter the most out of everything.
Yeah.
What you guys think, what you guys want, you matter. And I don't want to bore you with a bunch of ads, and I don't want to give you products that we don't even like, that you won't find any value in, and I'm not going to let anyone censor us. We're going to be who we are, and that's who we are. And if you like it, you can send us an offer. But if you don't, then I wouldn't send us an offer, because we're not here to appease to you. We're here to appease to our audience, and we think you guys like what we're about. So we're going to keep doing what we do best. And so we're going to get this barn in shape, and we're going to get this thing foolproof all year round, hopefully. And we'll just continue to keep doing these episodes of Barn. It's great to be back. I love the American flag. Hell yeah, baby. And we will wrap it up. So if you guys got any value, share it, pay the fee. We'll see you guys back here next Friday for another great episode.